I was reading an article in the Daily Maverick about Deputy President David Mabuza, DD, the cat, Mabuza, who used to be the Premier of Mpumalanga, and his links to an alleged land claims scam, corruption, linking him when he was the MEC of Land and I think Agricultural Affairs in Mpumalanga to some piece of land. There's different 300 and something hectares, 1,000 hectares, different, I think 8 farms, which was supposed to be for land claimants, which I think the owner of the land, Fred Daniels, had said there's no such thing. And even the land claim itself, apparently, when they look at restitution, land restitution, they say it falls on land from 1913. And this land apparently was transferred way before that. So according to them, it's not really land that the apartheid government shifted black people off of. I read the article, it's extremely wrong. It's written by a gentleman by the name of Kevin Bloom. It was released on the 5th of December 2022. You can check it out on dailymaverick.co.za. It's extremely long. Covers cases, covers articles written by the Daily Maverick. It covers David Mabuza's links and other people that have been involved, including other black politicians, white business people, some white gentleman called Fasahi. I think he's white. He might be colored. Fasahi is actually a popular colored surname, but I'm not sure, I started thinking about Cyril Ramaphosa and the Palapala game farm issue that's been happening, of which one of the latest stories that has come out is that the Sudanese businessman who apparently paid the money for the Ankole buffalo or cattle, no, it's cattle, sorry, the Ankole cattle, says he never received the cattle and he's been waiting for a refund. And he claims he didn't know that Ipalapala belongs to President Cyril Ramaphosa and that he was buying the cattle from Cyril Ramaphosa. People are saying this guy was probably paid to claim that this was his money. So some of the allegations of Jacob Zuma and the Guptas and some of the business dealings that happened while Jacob Zuma was president of South Africa, to Esma Khashule, who's been linked to various tender corruption and other things in the Free State, where he was Secretary General of the ANC, but before that he was Premier of the Free State. And I've heard rumors that all tenders used to go through him in one way or another. I've heard similar mutterings of David Mabuza in Mpumalanga, where he was the Premier. And I've heard similar mutterings of Usupra Mahumapilo, who used to be the Premier of the Northwest Province. They were known as the Premier League. My thoughts went to politics and power, not just in South Africa, not just on the African continent, but at the world at large. I do not know if it's possible to run a country like South Africa if you're not a criminal or a thug or a gangster. If you look at it historically, it took huge criminals in the form of colonizers from Britain and other parts of the world. I think Portugal was involved as well. And obviously later on, the Dutch and the French came here in the form of what we call Afrikaners today, but largely British colonization of Southern Africa. It was a crime, not from a legal sense, but from a natural sense, from nature. You're finding people on a piece of land like animals, and you are coming to dominate them there, bully them, force them to abide by your way of living in such a way that they have to work for you in exploited, oppressive conditions, so that they can forever remain your slaves in perpetuity. Initially through violence and now through debt and a warped money system, which is also supported by a warped legal system and a warped political system. Then after that, the Afrikaners, who were seen as second-class citizens and were just farmers, they consolidated, they came together and they decided to overthrow the British. It wasn't really overthrowing because they also had to get permission from the Queen in the United Kingdom to kind of run this country, because this is a very important piece of land for the United Kingdom and all its affiliates because of the gold, because of the minerals, etc. So the Afrikaners were allowed to run the country under the National Party. And they themselves were huge criminals. They had to prove that they had what it took to fight against the British, and they did. From a business acumen perspective, from hard work, from showing that they could also oppress and exploit black people to achieve the ends of enriching white Afrikaners, and more importantly, ensuring that they do not disturb the privilege of British colonizers before them. So the British colonizers to this day have not really been disturbed. They're still extremely wealthy. If you look at some of the big companies in South Africa, if they were not created or set up by British folk, or let's say English-speaking folk, they are in partly owned through London or listed on a London stock exchange, or like I said, through some of their affiliate countries or business owners around the world. They haven't been disturbed by and large. The Afrikaners have done a great job of building industry and business, and the work they've done with Eskom, Sasol, Telkom, and others, ISCO, has been incredibly exemplary. But it didn't dismantle British white privilege. And by British white privilege, I'm including the Portuguese, Greek, Lebanese, and some of the Israeli Jews that came to South Africa and have also enjoyed this economy that has been built off the exploitation of black labor, the domination of the black masses so that you could take their land, and in particular their productive land, from a fertile arable land perspective, and then also land that has minerals, and also coastal land, of which a lot of black people don't have access to coastal land where there's beautiful ocean views. That's not really reserved for black people, even to this day. So it seems that for the African National Congress to come and be handed over the prefect badge, you can now be principal from the Afrikaners. Again, this is why the ANC presidents have all had to go and pay homage to the Queen, and recently Cyril Ramaphosa to pay homage to King Charles, who called him Cyril Ramaphosa. You found Cyril saying, wow, wow, like a little clown. So they had to prove that they have what it takes. They needed to prove that we have the same bloodthirsty appetite, the same will as the British colonizers before us, as the Afrikaner apartheid government before us. We are willing, like them, to kill. We are willing, like them, to oppress and exploit the masses, which are black. We are willing to engage in corrupt activities. We are willing to comply with this warped money system, this warped political system, this warped legal system. And we will ensure, most importantly, that British white privilege will not be disturbed along with all the other affiliates. That's where you have companies like Anglo-American still powerful in this country. Companies like De Beers, the Oppenheimers are still wealthy. The Ruperts, who were part of the Broederbond, and then when they became big business people, they left the Broederbond because again, they became part of the affiliates of the British monarch, which included the Rothschilds, the Jewish Rothschilds who formalized banking around the world. That's why you've got a wine such as Rupert and Rothschild. They had to leave the Broederbond and be part of this bigger global community. Many other, the biggest bank on the continent, on the African Standard Bank, a big insurer being Liberty Insurance. All of these have not been destabilized. And look, even when black people are angry, they still point their fingers at white Afrikaners, but never at the British or at the white people, at the white Jewish people in this country who own a big chunk of the economy and influence a chunk of the economy, including the banks, including other financial services like loans and debt, including the big retail, food retail stores, etc., and who influence and control and fund their politicians, their favorite politicians, and their favorite kings in this country. So the ANC had to prove that, and they did that through creating a rebel army, Umkhonto Wesizwe. They did that by bombing buildings, by mobilizing people, by showing we have the same criminal thug gangster blood that you guys have. So we demand and deserve to sit at the table. And for that, the apartheid government said, sure, we see you. You are one of us. And they went, like I said, to pay homage to the Queen, sat with Nelson Mandela, who sat with Thabo Mbeki. I don't know if she sat with Kgalema Motlanthe, but she sat with Jacob Zuma, sat with Cyril Ramaphosa, and Cyril has sat with King Charles now to be like, okay, as long as you guys do not disrupt our privilege and don't disrupt the privilege of our affiliates, American, some of them based in Asia, some of them around Europe, etc. And that's what's happened. Everything was fine. Mandela came in, the black masses celebrated because they were given the illusion of freedom and economic upliftment and empowerment, which never really came. Instead, South Africa was turned into a large orphanage, and the masses of South Africans were turned into these beneficiaries who were given little boxes of houses and RDPs, given free healthcare, which enriches some of the incumbent business people, especially when you look at ARVs, the COVID vaccine now, not owned by black manufacturers, not owned by even local pharmaceuticals. When you look at Johnson & Johnson, which is doing the COVID vaccine rollout, they made sure that some of the big tenders in government, which are supposed to do services, schools, free schooling, which has a hollow education that does not upskill the black child, the Bidvest of this world get some of the biggest tenders. Some of these cartels in construction, Marion Roberts, Group 5, Grind Rod, I think, Grenacre, cartel, they get the biggest tenders. Obviously, the banks were not destabilized. Almost 30 years, we don't have a real black-owned bank. Dr. Sam Mutswenyane, about Dr. Richard Maponya, who founded NAFCOC, they built a black bank called African Bank. It was taken over by some Jewish businessmen. They got greedy in terms of their loans. The bank got into reckless lending. It was meant to collapse like a VBS, the Vendor Banking Society, which was a mutual bank. It was a form of corruption and recklessness, maladministration. But they were saved by the big banks in this country, who then took them over, and they've kind of revived African Bank today. It didn't work. But things were fine. Jacob Zuma came in and he made the mistake of exposing how this country is actually run, whether it was direct or indirect. He may have been, like the rest of the ANC leaders, another criminal and a gangster and a thug, but he didn't want things to flow the way they normally flowed. He didn't want the incumbents to make money alone. He was like, no, we need new players that are going to be like what happened in Russia. Was it Yeltsin? Boris Yeltsin? I'm not sure. Before Vladimir Putin. They placed their business mates to become these dollar billionaires in various industries, even to this day. And I think Jacob Zuma wanted the same thing. He was like, I can see Rupert, I can see Oppenheimer, maybe I can see Dostane, I can see Yanni Mouton, I can see Christo Visa, I can see maybe the Enthoven family, rest in peace to Dick Enthoven, one of the patriarchs of the Hollard Company Group, which owned Nando's, Spear Wine, some other big companies that you may not know. Amazing business person, amazing business family, not just in Johannesburg, not just in South Africa, but globally as well. Passed away recently from cancer. Eric Sampson, Max Steele. There are some other names, big names that you may or may not. Jonathan Bear, who no one has ever seen. Some of those people. Jacob Zuma was like, no, we need new players. Of course, with the transition from the National Party to the ANC, there needed to be some compromise. And the Afrikaners and the British were like, look, we'll give you some black faces. We'll give you your own versions of a Rupert and an Oppenheimer. And that's how we ended up with the Patrice Motsepe. We ended up with the Cyril Ramaphosa. There were some other names like a Phuthuma Nhleko, Dr. Anna Mokhokong, Saki Matozoma, Mzi Khumalo. Mind you, these guys were all given small BEE stakes in the same companies I'm telling you, these big gangster thug criminal organizations that came to dominate from British colonial days through the National Party apartheid days to this day. Some new faces, some new names, Lazarus Zim and the boys, Jacob Zuma was like, no, that's not enough. We need some different faces, some new faces. And since I'm the president, I'm going to flex. Of course, he came in with the Guptas, who were not liked, not even good at speaking English. Maybe that would have helped. Before them, people that had supported Zuma, who had made a lot of money, even before he became president, the Sheikh family, with Oshabir Sheikh and them, Vivian Reddy, and not just Jacob Zuma, but Vivian Reddy's been an amazing ANC member and leader and a sensational businessman, in Durban, But Zuma wanted more. He wanted to bring new players. Again, these are just my opinions, right? Maybe his son Tutuzane Zuma was going to become the next Patrice Motsepe through the Guptas, but the incumbents were not happy. You needed to be blessed and knighted by the Oppenheimers, the Ruperts, and whoever they are proxies for in the United Kingdom, in Europe, the Rothschilds, and whoever they are proxies for in America and anywhere else. And it was like, no, you guys didn't go through the right channels. Tutuzane Zuma can't become the next Patrice Motsepe unless he's friends with the right people, unless he's been given shares by the right people. Zuma was not happy. Tutuzane was one of the examples, many other examples of black people that became millionaires, billionaires, all of them accused of corruption. Accused of corruption because, again, they didn't go through the right channels, but their behavior was very much in the same vein as the apartheid government, as the British colonizers. And part of the thoughts for me was, is it possible to ever become wealthy in a country that has built its wealth from crime if you yourself are not involved in crime? Either by befriending the original criminals, which is what happened with the National Party and the ANC, and the original criminals give you a piece of the loot in the form of BEE shares. And they say, there you go, boy. These are our past crimes. We'll share some of these with you, but you must also gatekeep the masses. And you must continue to oppress and exploit them and give them the social welfare and this stupid education system that keeps them weak. And then make sure they can't really be serious players in business. Pile on all this red tape. If they want to build a bank, if they want to open an insurance company, if they want to go into retail, if they want to export, if they want to do anything, they must not be able to breathe. Cyril Ramaphosa never built a business from scratch for him to have game farms, for him and his brother-in-law to have stakes in banks. But she's got a banking license so easy with Time Bank that other people have struggled for because they were given leeway by the incumbents. Jacob Zuma coming in through the back door wanted to bring in people like Omalusi Gigaba or Tutumieni or Hlaudi Mutsoeneng to come and shake up the game. But the incumbents were like, you didn't ask for our blessing. And you didn't ask for the blessing of the people we hold proxies for in the United Kingdom, Europe, America, and other places. So it's a no from us. And we're going to throw everything at you. We're going to throw the media. We're going to throw this warped legal system. We're going to throw politics and send some of your mates to go and flush you out, because this is not how it works. We need to give you the stamp, the stamp of approval, and we have to give you the green light and say the thumbs up and say, sure, go for it. Zuma didn't do that because he's this mischievous little Zulu man who wanted to do things differently and who maybe had the illusion that he was actually very powerful. Zuma didn't push much, and when they asked him to step down, he did. Behaved as a true cadre, disciplined cadre of the movement. And he was arrested as well. If you're not going to be complicit in the old crime, you're going to have to commit a new crime. I'll give you an example. I live in a house and someone comes in from outside and back in the day, it was not a crime to come and take over someone's house. It was called conquest. It was not criminal. It was not theft. I was conquered. That's what they call it, the British. We conquered and we built an empire. Today, obviously, they call it crime. Crimes against humanity, which apparently America didn't commit when they were bombing Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan. Those are not crimes against humanity. It's only when people that have not been given the green light, when they do similar things, it's called crimes against humanity. Or Muammar Gaddafi, Robert Mugabe. Oh, these are huge criminals and thugs. So someone comes and they conquer me. They come and they take over my home. They let me stay there, but they enslave me, they oppress me, they force me to be exploited labor in this space. As the years go on, I have two choices of gaining control of this house. It's either, number one, I become friends with the person that conquered me and we get to share the house. I probably won't have a fair share. I'll be given BEE shares to own a little room in the big house. And I must celebrate. Oh, we see our Patrice Motsepe there now owns a piece of the house. We're so happy. Let's clap. Let's put him on the cover of Forbes and let's celebrate him on Bloomberg. It's either that and I become complicit in the initial crime, which involved the rape of people, which involved the killing and murdering of people, which involved the stealing of the most important resources in that house, which were then taken to the United Kingdom to go and make the Queen rich and all the Commonwealth or whatever affiliates. I become complicit and I have to carry on in my room, continue oppressing and exploiting and killing and raping the people that live in this house. That's the one way. The other way is to kill the current owner of the house or beat him or conquer him or steal back the things that he stole. So I go to the United Kingdom, I go to the British monarch, and whether through brute force, like Vladimir Putin and Russia, going there with nuclear weapons, military drones, and go and forcefully get the gold back and forcefully colonize and forcefully take back the economy that they took from Africa and bring it back. And that'll be called a crime against humanity. I'll be branded as a villain and oh, what kind of a person is this? It's 2022, we need to be civilized. Penal is such a bad person, whatever. Or I can do it at home, of course, and take back what they've taken here. And you say, we will take Naspers, thank you. We will take the banks and the Reserve Bank, thank you. We will take ShopRite and Woolworths and Spar, thank you so much. We will take the mines from Anglo American and Glencore and Xstrata and all these other companies, thank you so much, and De Beers. But you'll be branded a criminal, taking back an economy and the land that was taken without fairness from a nature perspective. We were conquered like a lion conquers a buck. Now when it's our turn to be strong and powerful and strategic and intelligent, like lions, we're not allowed to conquer because the laws don't allow that. We are civilized now. We have got the rule of law. We've got this beautiful constitution. You cannot do such things, Pen. That's wrong. That's a crime. Guns are bad. Saying that to people that have the biggest militaries and weapons in the world. The other parts which I've suggested, which have branded me as a crazy person, is let's do it more strategically. We live in a modern world, of course, so brute force will be met with brute force. We will be killed. Or we can do it strategically. Let's move to the United Kingdom. Let's go and occupy space there. We can get in there as labor, but then try and impregnate the white British girls there, especially if they're from elite classes, and make colored children, the Trevor Noahs, the Drakes, the Alicia Keys, the Shoma Josies of this world, who are going to come in as the Meghan Markles and infiltrate and gain back the land. Let's do the same here. I want to meet Johan Rupert's daughter or Christo Visa or Nikki Oppenheimer's daughter, and I want to have relations with them. Mutual. Not rape like what happened to birth the colored community in the Western Cape, but mutual. I love her. I'm Sia Kolisi. This is Rachel Kolisi. We love each other. Let's give birth to these colored babies who have access to these wealthy families. And I've said before that any well-off white person who is going to claim that they don't see color must be willing to let their children date, marry, and have children from people from other races to prove that they don't see color. Otherwise, they're talking bullshit. You cannot claim to be non-racial. You cannot claim to not see color until you are comfortable with your sons and daughters dating other people from other races, having children, and you have mixed race children from other races. It means you're a liar. And you're actually just bullshitting us so that you can get ahead. That's one of the ways. Other ways, of course, is, I've said this before, and this is an idea that people should use. Go to Europe and set up non-profit organizations and work on a white European guild to show what's happened in Africa and get them to give you some of their money as charitable donations, and take those charitable donations and go and invest them on the African continent into real skills, plumbing, electrical work, manufacturing, construction, inventing technology. Go and set up infrastructure, your own cell phone towers, your own wind turbines, build your own airplanes, your own ships, etc. And in that way, that's called reparations. Get these people through white guilds to donate and use that money not to feed kids brown bread and fucking milk, but to actually build industry here. Now, like I said, once real criminals and thugs have seen that you match them, if I'm seen as very violent, they will invite me to the table and say, Pen, you're one of us. In a situation like mine, if they see that psychologically, I see through them. I can see the game. I can see the bullshit of the law, of politics, of religion, of the money system. I can see the bullshit. They invite me to the table as a consultant, as an advisor. Pen, you've got great ideas. We love you. Come and sit at the table. Come and be a director with us. Like what happened to Double Trevor Manuel sitting on the boards of the Rothschilds. What's happened to Tito Mboweni sitting on as advisors for Goldman Sachs. They're like, you are like us. You're intelligent. Yes, you're not violent, of course, but we'll invite you to the table so that you can discuss with us how we kind of loot from the masses of the people. And the masses of the people will never rise up because they're too weak. They're too stupid. They're too dependent on the little bread. Give us ANC our daily bread. But if you look at it, Cyril Ramaphosa is a criminal, of course. But according to whose standards? According to the standards of the original criminals. Tito Mboweni, David Mabuza, Ace Magashule, Jacob Zuma, Zweli Mkhize, Supra Mahumepilo. All of these guys criminals, either by being complicit with the original crimes and getting BEE shares, or by being new criminals and trying to steal from these people or steal back what their people had. And our ambitions are so low, we're not even trying to colonize China. We're not trying to colonize India. We're not trying to colonize Russia. We're not trying to colonize the United Kingdom, England. We're not trying to colonize France and Spain and America and going to plant our children there so that they can breed with the children there, gain dual citizenship, gain extra passports, gain access to the resources that were taken. If you could take Africans like what we see with the French soccer team and other soccer teams and rugby teams, of course, the French rugby team as well. If you look at what's happened with the NFL, etc., take your black people that have been impoverished, go and dump them in the colonies, in France, in Spain, in Portugal, in England, in America. Go dump them there and be like, guys, that's where our economy was taken to. Go enjoy it. Go and enjoy our gold and our diamonds. And go be in Germany and enjoy the trains and the Autobahn and whatever there. Go be there and have fun, guys. India is doing something like that by shipping Indians to Silicon Valley. And they've shipped Indians to England to be like, that's where our wealth was taken to. Go enjoy it. We need to do the same as black Africans at least. And it's not going to come from me. I don't give a fuck. Talk about you guys that care about pro-black and pro-African. These are some of the solutions. Because the wealth is not going to come back. Your leaders are criminals and they are complicit in the crimes of the past and they are part of the exploitation and oppression. That's why even now Cyril Ramaphosa has been protected by the original criminals because they're like, this is our guy. Protect him. What he did wasn't that bad. Jacob Zuma's bad. Jacob Zuma's definitely bad. He's wrong. He's a criminal. Him and the Guptas must go to jail. Cyril, no guys, it's not the same. It wasn't really tax money. No man, it was his own private money. Come on, he's a businessman. Let's protect this guy because he's part of the original crime. He's complicit. The people that are in charge of the media, the legal systems, etc., give him a thumbs up and they say, he's fine. He's a good criminal. He's one of us. Jacob Zuma's not one of us. He's a different criminal. He wants to take from us and not eat with us. Some of my thoughts, things I think about. Looking forward to hearing some of your thoughts as well around some of these matters. Can you ever get wealthy in a space where the wealth was built off of crime without committing crime yourself? Either by being complicit in the original crime or creating a new crime and stealing back what was taken or what was used to build wealth. Penuel the Black Pen. Cheers.